We're going to focus on climate change to begin, Peter, and obviously there's a massive divide in the U.S. over, let's say, the immediacy of climate change solutions. No one's saying whether there is or is not climate change anymore. Pretty much everybody agrees or acknowledges there is climate change. But using the President Biden infrastructure bill, Peter, as an example, this has divided so many. The Republicans are questioning all of this, how should we say, climate change related infrastructure that's been bundled, right? Bundled into the bill. Is that really infrastructure? My definition of infrastructure, at least it used to be the roads, the bridges, the tunnels, the freeways. Yes, Democrats have sort of amended their infrastructure bill, this $1 trillion bill, but there's certainly others on the way, massive pending bills we the taxpayer are going to have to spend for these environmentally friendly infrastructure modalities. So the question really is a two-parter. Talk about that, but then also when so many folks are struggling during COVID, they can't pay the rent, they can't pay the mortgage, they can't pay their bills, they're trying to survive. Many are arguing, Peter, that the Democrats and the environmentalists are disconnected with a part of the U.S. public. Give us both arguments, that centrist sort of take you always give us. It's yours to talk about.
Okay, that centrist take. All right. Well, I think you set this question up well by pointing out that we're no longer debating about whether or not climate change is happening. That's behind us. And so it's really about the urgency of it and what trade-offs and sacrifices we should make to combat it. So that's the debate. What do we have to give up to solve the climate problem? And it's probably at the crux of the debate between the partisan divide that you say. And I think both sides kind of miss the point. And they miss the point because they make it an either or question. Either we're going to address climate change or we're going to take care of economic development and jobs. And it's not an either or question. In fact, I thought it was interesting the way you used the word infrastructure, and then you kind of said, well, what's climate got to do with it? Sort of a little Tina Turner moment there for you. But what climate has to do with it is climate is a form of infrastructure. It allows us, to be comfortable in a habitat. It allows us to move from place to place. And so climate is a bit of infrastructure. But more to the point, the Republicans who chastise this spending bill for also including a lot of investment in climate solutions are off the mark when they claim that this has nothing to do with all the economic suffering people do, because climate causes economic suffering. People are, most recent heat waves, people have to go out and buy air conditioners that they never had to buy before. They pay for electricity they never had to pay for. Storms cause damage. So climate is tied to it. On the other hand, the Democrats can be a little bit myopic because they can say climate is this existential threat, and above all else, we got to solve that. And these other problems are kind of trailing problems, and they're also equally misguided. So it's an absence of, it's kind of like they can't chew gum and walk at the same time. We can do investment in climate solutions, and we can take care of the economy at the same time, but we can't be symbolic about it. It's got to be really serious and hard work, and we shouldn't cover up how much work it's going to take, and it is going to take sacrifice.
Staying along the lines of climate change, is it an existential threat? I've heard you use those terms before. Others use them. If you listen to, let's say, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, for example, some of her progressive liberal colleagues on Capitol Hill, they basically say, listen, the world is going to implode in 12 years due to climate change. Is this what you might say is a liberal talking point? Is it fear-mongering? Is it a message of doom and gloom? Or on the flip side, is this dire, and must we take this seriously, Peter?
Well, it is dire, and we must take it seriously, but it's not a threat to human existence. It's probably not even a threat to total biodiversity in the sense that species will evolve and other ones will exist. So it's not the end of the world, but we have to take it seriously because it'll mess with our lives. It'll mean there will be many days in the summer when you can't go outside. It's just too hot. I like to, when I used to do some work in Texas, I used to kind of tease my anti-climate change friends and say, look at all the football practices got canceled because of hot weather. So it's going to do more serious things. It's going to exacerbate food shortages, and it's going to add extra expense. And those of us who are affluent, that's not going to be a big deal, but for the poorer people, it is going to be a big deal. So our species is not at risk. Our planet is not at risk, but it's a disruption that can change life as we know it, I guess. And so in that sense, changing life as we know it, I guess you could call that existential.